Hi guys, this is a follow-on from yesterday's live that we did with Brett and Jim Stevens on D. So one of the objections to the abundant science that was spoken about yesterday, which seems to have some validity, and I want to deal with this objection. Um, so one of the objections, maybe the prime objection, is look, whatever you want to say, whatever studies you want to use to prove that we're not deficient in D or whatever else, I'm not going to take any of that on board because I have personal experience where I've taken D and I felt better. And you can't argue with that. That's my personal experience. So your studies, your experts, your whatever else are all irrelevant to me because of that experience. So what what kind of scientific response can we give to someone's personal experience? Is their personal experience wrong? Are their feelings wrong? Should we just shove them under the carpet and ignore them? And as I say, I think it's a valid objection, and I think it needs careful thought. First of all, let me just say that feelings are something that I've spent many, many years trying to persuade people to get in line with knowledge and critical thinking, because feelings are a pretty poor barometer. And one of the examples that I like to give is the area of food that most of us know as comfort food. So there's a bunch of food that we call comfort food, which includes things like donuts and chocolate and chips or crisps from the UK, um, ice cream, all these things that are known. The reason they're called comfort foods is because they make us feel good. Okay, so if I was going to use my feelings as a barometer or a judge of what was the healthiest foods on the planet, I could be forgiven for coming to the conclusion that the foods we call comfort foods are clearly the most healthy foods because they make us feel great. Okay, now most people realize that that great feeling um, is not a good way of judging those foods as whether they're healthy or not. Okay, because they're all very unhealthy, and given time, they will damage our health, even though they may feel good at the time. Okay, so now we can apply that to many things. Drugs would be another good example, I guess. People tend to take drugs not because it makes them feel bad. I'm talking recreational drugs, some like heroin and crack cocaine or whatever. I don't know much about those kind of drugs. I've never taken them, but people take them because they make them feel good or they take away pain, for example, emotional pain or whatever. So we have to be a little bit careful when we use our feelings in isolation without knowledge and wisdom and all the rest of it. Okay, so I'm not saying throw away your feelings completely. I'm just saying that you need to apply some wisdom to how to interpret those feelings. We could look at many other areas where, I don't know, in relationships, somebody gets very badly hurt, and after that, they have feelings where they can't trust, even when there's no reason for them to not trust a particular individual that's in their present, but they're not trusting because of their feelings that were created by events in the past. So it can be challenging to overcome feelings that are once created. It can be very challenging, but feelings, while they can be intuitively warning us and cause us to have to hang on a minute, let me think about this, and they can be useful, they can also be misleading. So, as I say, we do need to be a little bit careful when we are judging by feelings. But someone will say to me, hang on a minute, because we're not just talking about feelings here, because I've taken D and my symptoms have improved. I had psoriasis and then my psoriasis went. I had whatever it may be, my symptoms went. So we're not just talking about feelings. Well, I'm not going to go too much into placebo, but one part of that equation is placebo. Okay, so for example, they've done a placebo experiments with chemotherapy. So they've had a group of people, some of who received chemotherapy and some of whom have received placebo chemotherapy, i.e., not chemotherapy. And 60% of the people who had the placebo chemotherapy lost their hair. Okay, so And then there's the nocebo effect as well, which is the exact opposite. So our feelings and our beliefs can have powerful effects. So one reason why symptoms could disappear or appear, depending on which way you're looking at it, can be down to beliefs and feelings and not the actual thing that you're taking. That's not where I want to focus this, but I just want to throw that out there just to mention that we do need to be careful when you wouldn't be able to reasonably argue that the sugar pill causes hair loss in 60% of people, right? Because it just doesn't. But under certain conditions and certain beliefs and all the rest of it, that can actually happen. Okay, so these things are not always as simple as they seem. But anyway, let's get back to this question of what about the people who take D and they get good results? By good results, we've already dealt with feelings, but let's forget the feelings, because feelings, I think we've just established, aren't that reliable. But symptoms, their symptoms improve. Okay, how do we answer that if we're arguing that D damages health? And they're saying, but I've taken it and it's improved my health. How do we answer that? Okay, so I need to go back into my distant past. And I remember something happening which I at the time couldn't explain. And what it was that I would come across, in the course of what I do, I'm a holistic nutrition and detox specialist. So I'd come across people who were seriously immunocompromised, and in some cases terminally so. Okay, so they would have, for example, cancer, and they would have cancer that they'd been told, there's nothing we can do. You've only got months or years to live. So we're talking serious stuff. And one of the things that surprised me was how many times I would have someone in that situation who would tell me, well, the one good thing I know is my immune system is really good. Because, and before I tell you the because, let me just say, so these are people who've got a serious chronic disease, cancer and the like, who are under the belief that they have a strong immune, which is crazy. You clearly haven't got a strong immune if you've got terminal cancer. Okay, so how does someone get to the position where they have a terminal chronic condition yet believe that they have a strong immune? Well, let me tell you how. Because they would tell me, I've got this cancer, but my immune must be strong. And here's how they know: because when a bug goes around, such as the flu, all their friends get the flu or whatever it is going around, and they don't. And they saw this as evidence that their immune must be strong and was fighting off the flu or whatever else it was, and they weren't succumbing to it. And that seems like reasonable evidence that, well, maybe some of their immune is rubbish and they have a part of their immune which is functioning really good. But maybe what's going on here? And you have to do a little bit of digging before you get to the bottom of this. Why is it that people who are terminally sick sometimes aren't catching the things that everybody else is? What's going on here? And to understand that, we don't need to look much further than how conventional medicine treats autoimmune diseases. So if you think of a range of autoimmune diseases and you go to regular doctors, now they're not going to treat the cause. What they're going to do is treat the symptoms. And what they're going to do is they're going to give you a drug, maybe a steroid, something designed to suppress the immune system. Because a lot of the uncomfortable symptoms that we have, fever is a good example, are created by the immune system fighting something. So if you suppress the immune system, many of the symptoms that we associate with being sick, and we think as symptoms of being sick, are actually symptoms of the immune system fighting something. So giving yourself a drug to suppress your immune system, if you have an autoimmune system, an autoimmune disease, may well make you feel better. Does it actually make you better? No. Does it cure the disease? No. all it does is it drives it deeper into your body. So once we understand this, we can realize that taking something that suppresses the immune system may well improve our symptoms, but that doesn't mean it's actually making us healthier. So, D is a steroidal hormone. It may well suppress your symptoms in the same way that many other steroids and drugs do. So you may well, in certain situations with certain conditions, feel better when you're taking it. But this is not evidence that it's actually helping you. You need to dig deeper to know if that suppressed immunity or that symptom going down is just a suppression that's actually driving it deeper, or if it's turning it around and curing you. You need to dig deeper. And so the evidence that we were presenting yesterday was that digger deep to show you that no, actually, it's not helping you to be healthier. Even those people who feel better when they take it, it's not actually helping them. So I understand why people may feel that because it seems intuitively like if your symptoms get better, then it must be doing you good. Equally, it seems like if your symptoms get worse, it must be doing you bad. And hopefully many of you know that that's not necessarily the case either. Sometimes symptoms are part of your immune system functioning, and that's actually a good thing. So anyway, I hope that's given you something to think about. And I would like to think that people will look. Don't throw your feelings away. Don't throw away symptoms of being diminished. Don't throw that away. But investigate. Okay, what's going on here? And I think when you do that in the context of hormone D, you'll find that it's not a positive thing. Okay, that it is actually doing you harm for the reasons that we went to some length yesterday talking about. So, any further questions? Listen, myself, Brett, and Jim, very happy to answer. But I'm hoping that one will clear up that particular issue and help you to understand why you can't just say, I feel better, my symptoms have improved, and therefore I'm going to ignore all evidence that it might harm me because my feeling better, my symptoms getting improvement trump everything else. They don't. But if they did, then conventional treatment is certainly the way to go because they are very good at suppressing symptoms. All right. God bless. Have a great day, everybody.